We're talking about, did the SEC get enough preferential treatment from the College Football Playoff Committee to justify now what looks like a very bad contract? And I argue this with Caleb, but Caleb set the table because for those that don't keep up with television contracts, and most don't, the Big Ten got a lot more dough.
Yeah, so here's what happened. In 2019, before the SEC went out and added Texas and Oklahoma, they were so mad at their deal with CBS because CBS was trying to short sell them that they went and inked a 10-year deal with ESPN, just exclusive ESPN, for $300 million a year, $3 billion, so $3 billion total, to go into effect, which went into effect this year. The Big Ten, in response, waited until after they added USC and UCLA, and then went to 3 networks, NBC, CBS, and Fox, shopped themselves to all of them, and collectively got a 7-year deal worth $1 billion a year. So for the next 7 years, the Big Ten is going to be making $1 billion a year. And for the next 10 years, the SEC is going to be making $300 million a year. And the Big Ten will be able to renegotiate before the SEC can, so they'll even make more. Now, the argument in that so it was a bad deal for the SEC. The argument in favor of the SEC that Dave has made to me was that the ESPN connection would almost maybe not outweigh the difference in the money, but could neutralize it to some degree because there would be certain levels of preferential treatment for the SEC.
Now, on Caleb's side, I feel like we're supporting each other's side, but on Caleb's side, the money is a big deal. Used to be, but listen, everybody's capped out. They've got the best facilities. They're able to hop on any sort of airplane that they need to recruit. The money was pretty much capped out. Every school was spending as much as it needed to. I'm talking about the top 20 or so schools to compete at the championship level, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. But now you've got that three-letter acronym, NIL. So that could change the entire playing surface. You could see the Big Ten being the preeminent conference because of NIL. I don't think that's going to happen because you have most of the war daddies down in the South and they want to stay in the SEC out of allegiances, but it's more possible than I ever thought. So, Coop, first down.
Coop here, first down.
All right, first down is this. Tennessee is behind Ohio State when they have the same record. So Tennessee didn't get any preferential treatment there, did they?
No, and actually, and this is where I was wrong on Monday, and this is the big thing that proves to me that this SEC contract wasn't worth it. I thought if you had teams evenly matched and if it was very close, the SEC team would get the nod, even if they didn't deserve it, because of the politicking with the SEC and ESPN. And that's where I was with Ohio State and Tennessee. I've told you guys why I think Ohio State has a clear-cut better resume. But it's close. It's extremely close. And it's close enough that if the SEC was going to get any preferential treatment being tied to ESPN, Tennessee should have gotten the nod. And they didn't, which makes
it's close enough that if Greg Sankey makes a call, and ultimately ESPN is controlling this, guys. Let me be real clear. There's no NCAA out there. There's no, if it's television that's controlling this. And ultimately, if it were close, you would have a situation in which Greg Sankey, and it was very close, but if the SEC were going to get preferential treatment, it's because Greg Sankey picks up the phone and goes, we're, by our metrics, that Tennessee-Ohio State game looks really close. So why don't you just say, based off recent record, that Ward Manuel that looks like he can barely tie his own shoes, why don't you just say, hey, recent history, recency bias, look what happened in the Michigan game, look how hot Tennessee is. And you could have sold that, and other than those in Columbus, no one would have thought it was insane, right?
Exactly. You're right. No one. And so, but it didn't happen, which hurts Tennessee, which hurts the SEC, the case for the SEC in this contract. But we'll keep going.
All right. Second down, Coop.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Tennessee is ahead of Indiana despite one more loss. Is that preferential treatment?
No, it's not. And just look at the strength of schedule. Indiana's got the 65 ranked strength of schedule. They have literally 0 quality wins to their name. None, nada, zilch, zip. And that is absolutely no preferential treatment whatsoever. Tennessee belongs ahead of Indiana. I would argue you could make the case that maybe Indiana belongs ahead of SMU. Maybe that's a little unfair for SMU to be ahead of Indiana, but Tennessee's absolutely ahead of Indiana. As I'm saying this out loud, Dave, looking at resumes, you know who your ire should be directed at if you're a Tennessee fan more than Ohio State? Notre Dame. They have a terrible. They have a bad resume too at 11-1, and their resume is more comparable to Indiana's. Quite
now,
honestly.
what's Tennessee's strength of schedule?
Tennessee's strength of schedule, based on the FPI, is number 28. Indiana's is number 65. Notre Dame's is number 57. And Tennessee has a quality win over Texas A&M, over Alabama. Notre Dame's best win is over Texas A&M. By every metric, Tennessee's played a tougher schedule. I'm not so sure Notre Dame belongs where they are. That's who you should be mad at.
No, that's fair. And I'll say this too. When you're talking about 28 compared to 65, that's an incredible difference. If we were talking about 28 to 40, that's negligible, right?
Right. Which is why Tennessee, that's why I say the Notre Dame one is a little trickier. Because 11-1 Notre Dame with the 50. Notre Dame is number. I just want to point this out. I didn't even think about this when I wrote this out. But Notre Dame's number 4. They have the number 57 ranked strength of schedule at 11-1. Georgia's number 5 at 10-2 and has the number 3 ranked strength of schedule. Georgia should be ahead of Notre Dame. There's no debate about that. That's insane.
All right. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
All right. Alabama is ahead of Miami in the college football playoff ranking. Is that preferential treatment that the SEC should have gotten when they signed that contract with ESPN?
Yes, because that's not even preferential treatment. Okay, I'm sorry. Look at their resumes.
Wait, you said yes. Or are you saying you
said
yes, but you mean no?
It's put it this way. Alabama, it seems like preferential treatment for being in the SEC. No, it's preferential treatment because Alabama had the better resume. This is where the debate is, does Alabama
you're saying it's not preferential treatment. You're saying they deserved it.
Yes, I'm saying they deserved it.
Okay.
I'm saying they deserved it. See, I'm saying they straight up deserved it. And this is where there's no evidence of clear-cut preferential. There should be some unfair treatment for the SEC in their favor because of this contract with ESPN. This is not evidence of that. Alabama, I don't care what any of you guys say. 9-3 Alabama is significantly better than 10-2 Miami. And Dave, I think you would agree with me on that too. It's not even close to me that Alabama belongs over Miami.
No, I agree. You argued that yesterday, and I looked at it closely, and I adhere to that thought. And what down, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Well, here's the one that ultimately proves your point, right? That there was no preferential treatment because Miami is ahead of Ole Miss and South Carolina.
Yes, and I want to actually add one if we can do a 5th down. But yes, the 4th down, first Miami ahead of Ole Miss and South Carolina. Alabama is the best of those 3 loss teams. Where you could maybe argue Alabama somehow getting a weird break that the others aren't is how is Alabama ahead of Miami, but Ole Miss and South Carolina aren't? Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina should all be ahead of Miami. All of them, all 3. And Miami has, guess how many top 25 wins Miami has, Dave?
Goose.
0. They're 0-1. Okay, this is ridiculous, guys. Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss are all better than Ohio State. I'll listen to an argument for Miami. I'll listen to an argument for South Carolina or Ole Miss before I listen to an argument for Miami. They should all be ahead of them. That's absolutely ridiculous. And it's crazy that they didn't get preferential treatment.
Quality Tire Pros serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brakes, alignments, downtown Chattanooga, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com, QualityTirePros.com. You're not going to believe the stat of the day, but I want to remind you, when you stop by there on Cherokee Boulevard to get your car fixed in downtown Chattanooga, tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo. All right, so Caleb's stat of the day is... Yeah, what? Sorry?
I wanted a 5th down real quick for not preferential treatment
okay.
for the SEC.
5th down.
Here's where there's clearly not preferential treatment for the SEC. It's one thing you talk about the 20. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's do this. This is a fiery 5th down, and it's brought to you by Double D.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best.
By the way, the answer on the poll question, if you're a Vol fan, would you rather get Ohio State at home in the college football playoff or have David Sanders not flip to Ohio State is awesome. We'll get to the results, but go ahead and vote now. Caleb, what's your fifth down?
All right, my fifth down is this, and this is kind of an intriguing one. I apologize to everybody for defending the committee. I was so, and this is weird, I'm saying this in real time, Dave. I did so much research on Tennessee, I kind of lost the forest for the trees. Have you ever done that before? Sometimes covering things?
Yeah, in recruiting? Yeah, about 1 million times.
Well, I didn't pay attention. I kept thinking of the Tennessee-Ohio State matchup, and I didn't think of Notre Dame. This is where the committee, and maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow too, this is where the committee got it wrong. We'll talk Notre Dame versus Tennessee. Notre Dame, you just talked about it. 28-40 schedule strength is marginal, right? 25-40, pretty much. It should just be record, right? If there's like a 15 spot difference, record.
Yeah.
At that point. Okay. Notre Dame has the 57th ranked strength of schedule. Georgia has the 3rd. Georgia with one more loss should be ahead of Notre Dame, right?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
That's insane. Penn State has the 37th ranked strength of schedule, 36th ranked strength of schedule. Georgia should be ahead of Penn State with 2 losses to 1, right?
You're preaching to the choir.
That is where the SEC is actually getting totally screwed. Georgia has no business being behind. I'm just going to say it. Georgia should be number 2 at 10-2. They should be number 2 ahead of Texas, Penn State, and Notre Dame, all who are 11-1. They have a tougher schedule than all 3 of those teams. And if you're going to say Alabama, and here's my, so Alabama versus Miami. Alabama has a 17th ranked strength of schedule versus Miami's at 38, at 55. That's a 38 spot difference. You're telling me 38 spots is enough to bump Alabama ahead of Miami. I agree with that with one more loss. I totally agree with that. Well, let me start this over. Sorry. Okay, then we can move on to the next one. I'm going to explain this from the start. Alabama's 9-3, Miami's 10-2. Alabama's strength of schedule is 17th per the FBI. Miami's is 55th. You're telling me that 38 spot difference is enough to bump Alabama ahead of Miami with one more loss. Fair enough. But Georgia's strength of schedule is number 3. Notre Dame's is number 57. Georgia has one more loss than Notre Dame. You're telling me a 54 spot difference is not enough to bump Georgia over Notre Dame? But a 38 spot difference is enough to bump Alabama over Miami? That's where you should get mad if you're an SEC fan. Georgia has no business being below Notre Dame, and quite honestly, they shouldn't be below Penn State.
And just for those that don't know, and if you want to pull it up, you can, but from the College Football Playoff website, it's the selection committee ranks the teams based on the members' evaluation of the team's performance on the field using conference championships won, then in this order, strength of schedule, head-to-head results, and comparison of results against common opponents.
There is no way Georgia should be. Yeah, that's they mostly got it right, except Georgia is getting screwed. Georgia's getting screwed more than anybody. And again, I'm going to save this, but Tennessee fans, you're misdirecting your ire. It shouldn't be at Ohio State. It should be at Notre Dame.